Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode where I will at least attempt to answer any of your frequently asked questions or anything that you might want to know about the paranormal, or at least in the paranormal of the investigator standpoint. So the thing that I want to talk about today is qualities of what I believe makes a very good paranormal investigator. I'm not talking about ghost hunters, I'm talking about paranormal investigators, professional investigators of the paranormal. And I think they do have some very common traits. And the first one being integrity. This is a business of a field, a business, whatever you want to call it, of a lot of egos and everybody believing that their views of everything is the correct one. And so that's why, any of these videos is just my opinion. You can take it or leave it. It's just what I've come to know. It is what I have come to believe. So whether you share those or not is completely up to you. But you have to be able to admit when things are wrong. You have to be able to be honest about everything. You have to put forth evidence that you truly believe is legitimate. And there are people out there that will see something that they don't quite understand, or it's probably this, which isn't paranormal, but let's put it out there anyway, because it makes us look good. Or, we haven't had any evidence in a while. It's good enough. That sort of thing. Integrity, honesty is huge. And even if something down the road gets disproved, I mentioned in another video about an EVP that we had for a long time. This was another team completely back in my rookie days, where it turned out to be movement. It wasn't an EVP at all. We had matrixed it, but we had presented it to the client as an EVP because that's what we thought at the time. So it's important that even if you mess up, and it's okay to admit it. It's also okay to admit that you don't know the answer. It took a long time for me to come to that conclusion. In fact, I didn't. I wasn't the one that kind of said that. It was Grant Wilson. But he said that it's okay to, when you're asked the question, to say, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. And since I heard that, I'm far more comfortable just being like, I don't know the answer to that, or I don't know enough to give a good answer for that one. And that has happened many times. You don't have to be a know-it-all or an expert, as there's no experts in the paranormal, period. No matter what the TV shows say. But so integrity, honesty is huge. Having an open mind, and I don't mean like the paranormal in general, like you have an open mind, these things exist. Not that. I'm assuming, I guess even if you're a skeptic, it's still healthy for an investigator. In fact, a lot of them are skeptics. What you can have is be cynical about it. Like this doesn't exist. No matter what you show me, it's crap. It's hoaxed. It's misinterpreted. It's misunderstood. Whatever. Being an open-minded skeptic is probably one of my favorite, or some of my favorite people. They're the ones that can go in there and say, okay, let's look at this from another perspective, or let's try to figure out what naturally could cause this. But they're open to the fact that if you can't come up with that, that's okay. That they're all right with that. And they're willing to admit, okay, this is probably paranormal, because I can't prove it. The other part of of having an open mind is it goes along with my next one, which is imagination and creativity. And I don't mean make shit up type of imagination. I mean think outside the box. Don't just have one answer. If there's anything that I've learned from watching the Dead Files, and take whatever your opinion of Amy Allen and Steve DeShavi are, but there can be multiple stuff going on at a location. I've had some. So coming up with one answer, one conclusion, and that's it, may work for a lot of cases, but not all of them. So have an open mind and think outside the box. Think of new experiments to do. Think of new ways to investigate. The questions that you ask don't have to be, do you know what year it is? What is your name? Why are you here? Do you need help? Like, they don't have to be the cookie cutter paranormal investigative questions. Those are good. You can still ask them, but think of different ones. Think of the claims. Think of where you are, and come up with more relatable type questions. Food, from what I understand, I never gotten an answer. Well, actually, I think I got one. But bringing up food, people's favorite foods. Having creativity and imagination in this field is good. As long as you bring in that integrity that you're going to use it to actually help bring in evidence, real evidence, legit evidence, and legit experiences. The last one that I want to touch upon, and these are just kind of a broad, like, most important type of thing, and that's patience. Patience, I can't even begin to stress patience in every aspect of it. When you're just starting out, patience in your training. Not everything is going to come to you. Just because you go on 3 investigations with the team doesn't mean that you're now free to do whatever you want. Doesn't mean that you're trained in. It takes a lot of time, and I say this because I trained for 4 years before I broke off with my mentor Dave, who's now my co-host and very good friend of the Odyssey Files. But I trained for a long time, and you can never, and I'm still learning. 9 years in the field, and I'm still learning. Never, ever, ever think that you know it all, or that you've seen it all, or you've seen this before, therefore it's this. Patience. Patience for, like I said, your training. Patience for the spirits. Just because it's quiet at a location does not mean they're not talking to you. I have had many, many investigations where absolutely nothing has happened to me. It's been quiet. I almost wondered if there's anything there to begin with. But then you go through the evidence and there's a dozen EVPs of them answering your questions, of just voices in general that maybe they were just talking to each other. Never just assume that they're not speaking to you just because you can't feel anything, you can't hear anything. And I say that because a lot of people lose their patience in that situation. They start, well, it's quiet, let's see if we can rile shit up. So they start provoking, or they start asking more challenging questions. They start acting like an asshole, pretty much, to try to drive up the activity, because it's like, well, we're not getting any answers here, our equipment's not going off, we need to do something. No, you don't. Stay the course, so to speak. Be patient with everything, and I will drill that into everybody's skull that ever wants to come out and investigate for me. With me, on the other hand, that's another story. But that is huge. And lastly, I just want to say, paranormal investigation is not for everybody. Just because you want to do it, you think it's cool, you want to have the experiences you see on TV, does not mean you should be doing this. There are a lot of aspects to this that I'll get into in another video, that you're just not going to be able to handle. You're not going to be able to do it. And that's not a criticism of you. It's just it's not for everybody. So if you're told that, whether by me, whether by another team, whether you're constantly being corrected or having your behaviors or the mannerisms changed, you understand that it's not them. It's probably you. I mean, it could be them, don't get me wrong, but I've had a lot of people who have come to learn how to be an investigator, and they're upset and they're pissed and they quit to start their own team because they don't feel that the way, after 4, 5, 6 investigations, and I'm like, you're still in training, that's fair. They know everything, or they know enough, or they don't need to be reminded anymore. And that's 100% not the case. Like I said, just be patient. Learn. Be happy with what you're doing, and don't be in such a hurry to be the man or the woman in any instance. To be the one that gets that phenomenal piece of footage or unbelievable EVP that's going to shock the world or shock your friends or family, whatever. If that is why you're doing this, if that's why you want to get in, because you want to be the man, the next Grant Wilson, or the next Dustin Perry, who's a good friend of mine, love him to death. Don't do it, because I don't. In my opinion, and this, like I said, my opinion, you're not going to last long enough for you to reach that goal. You're going to get too impatient with it. So it's a process, and it's a very, very long process. I don't expect anybody to be in training for 4 years, but don't think in the first 6, 7, 8, 9 cases you're going to figure it all out. Because like I said, 9 years now, I'm still learning. I'm still harnessing my craft, figuring out what works best for me, for my team, for them. So there's nothing wrong with coming up with your own ways of doing it, but be patient in how you execute it. So that is what I have to say for this one, on just kind of the most important traits for an investigator. Like I said, there's a whole slew more. You're just going to have to figure out what works best for your team, or whether you have these qualities to give to a team in the future. So everybody have a good day. Stay healthy. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.